Hello, bridge builders! I'm here with some exciting news. The first volume of interviews is now available on Amazon.com. The link can be found at eatlunchandboardgame.com. I promise that all proceeds from sales of this book will go right back into this podcast and channel. Whether that is new and better audio equipment for the podcast or video equipment for the YouTube channel, or even more games to review, the money will not be wasted. Click over to Amazon and get your copy of Eat Lunch and Board Game, the first course today. And thank you for supporting the show. All right, welcome back to Eat Lunch and Board Game. I'm your host, Adam Collins, and with me today is Tom Chleborad of Average Joe's Gaming Podcast and Average Joe's Game Store. Tom, How you doing?
I'm doing real well. How about yourself?
You know, trying to get through the day so I can get to this, the fun part.
Yeah, happy Monday.
That's right. So, Tom, you are part of the Average Joe's Podcast with Joe Hammerly. So does that make you the average part then?
Joe would say so. Yes, Joe would say that I'm the average one, but no, we're both pretty average. We're pretty average. So, well, as I say, he calls me Tom the Mustache. So
yes. I was joking with Tom that it was going to be Tom the Mustache and Adam the Beard. He's like, yeah. I got money on Adam the Beard all the time. So yeah. No faith in you, I guess. So, Tom, how did you get into board gaming?
Well, let's see. I mean, it goes back quite a ways. I was divorced about 23 years ago, and my kids would, my ex and I get along real well. We share custody of the kids, but they were at the time 10 and 6. And we were looking for something to do, and we went into a local store here called Rainbow Cards and Collectibles, and they were playing a game called Mage Knights, which was one of the first click games, like Hero Clicks, only it was the first click game, and my kids fell in love with that game. And so we kind of jumped all into it, and we'd go to tournaments on there pretty regularly. I'd played board games, all through high school, and I played D&D all through high school, but I'd kind of let it go after college, got married and had to have an actual job, and then we had kids. But anyway, once the divorce happened, looking for something to do, we went to the store to see what was going on, because I've always collected comic books as well. And that got us into that. And I got to know the guy who ran the tournaments pretty well. And he says one day, well, we do a board game night on Thursdays, if you want to ever come some night. And I said, yeah, that sounds like fun. Well, actually, no, that's not true. He introduced us to a group called Ions, which was, or at the time, I think it was Sioux Falls Area Game Sage. It was called Sage, Sioux Falls Area Gaming Enthusiasts. And they had a convention down in Sioux City, and they had one in Sioux Falls that they did. And so the boys and I went down to Sioux City to that convention. It was the first time I'd really ever been exposed to board games other than Monopoly well, that's not true. I guess I had played Diplomacy once a long time ago, and we used to play.
And you lost every friend you were playing with at the time.
No, but it is the only time I've actually been physically assaulted during a board game. Friend of mine.
I don't think I've been physically assaulted yet playing a board. I got close one time at a game of Catan.
Keep in mind, we were 17-year-old high school kids. But yeah, a buddy and I made an alliance, and it became good for me to break the alliance.
Oh, no.
I told him, this is what's going to happen. And he did not believe me. And then it happened. And he happened to be sitting next to me. And he just began pounding on my shoulder with his fist. And I was like, okay, dude, this is not cool. Don't do that. And I didn't win the game, and we're actually still friends. I mean, it was a long time ago, but he, obviously you lose touch with people from high school, but I still keep in contact with him every once in a while. And that whole group I'm still friends with. But so that was, I used to play that, and we used to play a lot of D&D when I was a kid. And ironically, I'm pretty much out of role-playing games. But anyway, so they kind of introduced me at this Sioux Falls Area Gaming Enthusiast group to board games, and so did the friend of mine who ran the game store, or the comic and game store. And so they introduced me to games like Catan and Carcassonne, and I think one of the ones we played was Knights, not Knights of the Round Table, but the Camelot game.
Shadows over Camelot.
Shadows over Camelot, yep. And Dominion. Dominion became one of my all-time favorite games. And yeah, I started playing games like that, and then from there I would go to these conventions and just really began to enjoy the board gaming and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I
And
got.
now it's all history.
Well, yeah, basically, yeah. Well, so isn't
Yeah.
isn't life all history though?
As soon as it happens.
Yeah, exactly. But well, at least within a minute or two of it happening. But yeah, so that was how I got into the board gaming hobby.
Nice.
And my kids really enjoyed it. In fact, my youngest right now is still a serious online and in-person role player. He does some board games. My oldest doesn't have a lot of time for that anymore, but he does collect Pokemon cards now just because he thinks it's an investment more than anything else. So
It's not going to be an investment.
not for very long, but for now, I think it is.
It's like all those baseball cards I have in my basement and aren't
Oh,
worth the
man.
cardboard they're printed on.
Nope. Although I do have a couple that I think are worth some money, but not as much as I've spent over the years on that hobby in particular. So, that was another cat. If you heard that,
How many cats do you have, Tom?
3. And the one again, since I'm talking to you, and they of course can't see that, they think I'm talking to them, so they're all excited.
So do you usually talk to your cats?
No. Okay, yes, but it would be rude not to.
It would be rude not to. Oh, so Tom, if I came over to your house right now, what game is currently sitting out on your dining room table or board game table or whatever you play on?
Well, right now I'm looking over and I can see Wingspan, I can see Pacific Rails Inc., Marvel Champions, and Arkham Horror, the LCG. Those are within
Nice.
distance of where I'm looking. I don't really do a lot of playing at my house. I usually play over at Joe's, or I have a couple of other buddies where I go and play.
Because you have too many Funko Pops.
Oh yeah, you can see those behind me too. That's my pops around the world and all the troll pops that I have. And you don't want to see what's to the right of me here. Well, yeah, you don't want to see them. You might. Yeah.
So we're talking before we start recording that you do have a day job, and do you play board games at lunch with your coworkers?
Used to play cards quite a bit. We'd play hearts or a game called Spades. Some friends of mine taught me that, and so every lunch hour for a while we would do that. But we moved to buildings, and my department in particular is small, and we don't take lunches at the same time. And I kind of go out to eat now more than anything else, or just to get out of the building. So I don't play board games at lunch.
That's too bad. I know you're a cribbage player too.
I have played cribbage in the past. I have not played for quite some time. I would like to again, and I did actually talk to somebody who said there's cribbage tournaments in town, and I'm like,
that's what you're saying. I'm like, I want to fight a cribbage tournament, test my skills.
I kind of want to do that too, what I think I'm gonna have to do is go online and try and remember kind of the rule. I mean, I know the how to play the game, but I don't know how to score it and that kind of thing. So I have a couple boards. Actually, I have 2 or 3 different cribbage boards, just because I really like the game. My dad taught it to me years ago, and
it's funny to me how. So I taught myself how to play, and I bought like you said, I bought a nice board. I bought a nice solid one-piece board off of Amazon because I couldn't find a board anywhere. And then I was at Target, and they've got a nice foldable one that holds a deck of cards in there and everything else. It was the same price that I paid for the nice one off of Amazon. And then over the weekend, I was at Goodwill, and there was like a travel size one that was beautiful. It was like $2, and I'm like, well, I don't need another one, but man, I couldn't find a cribbage board to save my life, and now I buy one, and they're everywhere.
Yep. Well, one of the first things I bought after I got divorced was one of those multiple game, chess, checkers, backgammon, cribbage, Go. I
Chinese
think it was called the game.
checkers.
Yeah, it was like a box.
Yeah.
You had the obviously the chess and checkerboard on one side. It had the Chinese checkers board on the other side. It had a Go board as an insert. It was really nice. Of course, my kids immediately lost every chess piece I had, and most of the cribbage pieces disappeared. I still have the box with the chessboard on it, and it had a cribbage set in it. But yeah, when they weren't interested in learning how to play cribbage. They did like chess and they did like checkers, so we played that quite a bit. But then
Yeah,
I
I
was
taught my son backgammon, and
yeah.
he
Oh,
beat me.
they like
Yeah, he
backgammon.
beat me a couple nights ago, and I was like, "Are you kidding me, man?"
That's why I don't
Got all
play
the way down
chess.
to the end, and I couldn't do it. I couldn't pull it off.
That's why I don't play chess because both my kids beat the snot out of me in that game. So
Oh, I haven't beat my son in chess in a while now.
yeah.
When I play chess with my son, it's just a matter of how long can I hold on before he beats me.
Checkers, I can kick their behinds, but chess can't do anything with that. And I can beat him in backgammon too. But that's a game basically. I mean, it's essentially luck. There's some skill to it, but with as far
I think there's a lot of skill to backgammon as to
yeah, but if you
what
can't
you
get the right
move and
rolls, if you can't get the right rolls, you're screwed in that game.
yeah. Well, I mean
Cribbage,
that's the way it is in a lot of games.
yeah, cribbage to me seems like more of a skill game because you can manipulate the cards a little more. But
Yep.
I just haven't played it in a long time. Oh, and then that's what I was going to say. I was shopping at a local store called Walgreens here, and they had a whole bunch of kind of basic like chess checkers and cribbage and backgammon sets on sale that were themed in football teams. And I'm a Vikings fan. Yeah, I'm a Vikings fan. So I bought the Vikings cribbage set, and
That's awesome.
I keep threatening to take that over to Joe's because he's a Packers fan. And
You're both wrong. It's the Bears. I mean, you're both wrong. So
I was a big Bears fan in the '80s. I will tell you that right now.
you had to be.
Especially the year they won the Super Bowl because that was. Well, my ex-wife
85.
and I used to make teddy bears when we were first married. We made teddy bears. We sewed, I designed a pattern. We'd cut them out and sew them, and I did it all by hand. And so we were big into just bears in general. And that year happened to be the year that we started doing it when they won the the Super Bowl, and all that stuff that went on with those. And I really like Jim McMahon. I think he's the kind of quarterback that I really like in football, or a kind of football player I like who just obviously loves the game. And you get the impression that they would play. Well, granted, they want the money, but that they would play as long as they're allowed to play, just because it's fun. But yeah, so that's those are the games that are around me right now. Well, I see a whole bunch of fake Pokemon cards too that my kid got me as a joke. So,
Fake Pokemon cards?
well, for my birthday he gave me a box of Pokemon cards, the Sun and Moon series, and he says I'm pretty sure that these are fake because I got them off of Wish. I said, yeah, you're probably right then. They're very good looking cards, but I'm pretty sure they're fake. So he thought that
Good
was fun.
old Wish.
Yeah.
So, Tom, what would be your go-to 1 hour game for a full lunch hour? What's your 1 hour game?
I would probably say, it can take an hour if you're playing with the right group, Wingspan. If you're playing with the right group, I think that you can get 4 rounds of that done, even though, because, you're diminishing. If you played Wingspan, you've played it before. You're diminishing your turns. Every turn you have every round you have fewer turns. You only get 4 rounds. So if you got 4 people who know what they're doing, and I would say 4 is the good number for that game, you could get through Wingspan in an hour. Might be a little bit of a push, but I think Wingspan would be the game I would pick. I was going to
That's the Friday afternoon game.
I was going to say Terraforming Mars.
75. Oh, you can't get Terraforming Mars in an hour.
No, I was going to say Terraforming Mars, but that's at a company where they have really liberal, very long lunch hours. Because that game, I've never played a game of that lasted less than 4 hours. Honestly,
less than 4.
Well, yeah, and I've played with people who are good at the game, but they also the 4 of us that normally play the game together all want to beat each other real bad. So we're really thinking hard about how we're going to move so we can try and basically screw people and wreck their turn if we can. But it's a good group of people that like to play that game. But no,
Yeah.
Wingspan's pushing it. I would say Wingspan's pushing it, but I think you can get that done in an hour. If you wanted to go with something a little more reasonable, probably like a Tiny Epic Galaxies maybe would work.
Well, I
One of the
like Tiny
Tiny
Epic
Epic games.
Galaxies.
Yeah, one of the Tiny Epic games, because those literally are. I mean, they're meaty games, but in a very small package.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
like Tiny Epic Galaxies. It's a
those would
solid
work.
one.
Yeah, Galaxies is by far my favorite. I do like Tiny Epic Westerns, but that one I think takes a little longer than an hour because you have to remember how poker works.
That's one of the few I haven't played. I haven't played that one, and I haven't played some of the newer ones, like Tactics On.
Tiny Epic Dinosaurs is another good one.
Yeah, it's on my list. I just haven't. My shelf of shame is getting too large, and I'm trying to stop buying games. I say that, but I had 3 show up in the mail today, so
Well, if you listen to our podcast, Joe has still been buying a lot of games, but my acquires are down to. I mean, I'm basically occasionally buying a Funko Pop or two, and we count those. Um, I do have a couple things that I have on order that haven't come in yet, and I stopped doing Kickstarters a couple years ago. Other than going through the store in town that we do, they'll do Kickstarters for us, like at a retail level. I want to support the local game stores, and I honestly, when Terraforming Mars, that's when I did it. When Terraforming Mars put their expansion out on Kickstarter, I just went, nope. Then I'm done. Stronghold Games has no reason, in my opinion, which doesn't make it right, but it's my opinion. They have no reason to be on Kickstarter. And I actually had a chance to talk to Steve Bonacourt about it when he was with them at Geekway to the West. And I said, what is the deal with going on to Kickstarter? And he says, well, it's a pre-order system for us.
it's guaranteed pre-order.
Yep. It's pre-orders. I said,
Yep.
you don't need to do this, do you? And he says, no, but now we know how many to produce and we can skip the retailers, which he basically is saying, I'm screwing the friendly local game store. And that's what it is. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of manufacturers are going to that kind of thing.
Well, I've talked about it before with, I think, with you guys on your podcast before it became a live video cast, which I've also been on.
Yeah.
But then I realized as I'm on there, I'm like, this is why I do podcasts. I don't have a face for live TV.
Oh, you're fine.
Put a
hat on and you're good.
Put a hat on, turn the lights down real low. Nobody will notice.
Let the beard grow out a little more again.
I'll tell you what, it's getting grayer and grayer.
I'll tell you what, there's this stuff called Control GX. Not that I've ever used it or anything like that, but it's pretty good, and it works on facial hair too.
I'm not worried about
it.
My kids are giving me every one of these hairs.
Me too.
But that's kind of what is happening to Kickstarter. Is it's becoming a pre-order system for the big game stores or big game manufacturers, that it makes smaller game manufacturers really struggle to make ends meet. Like we were both, well, and including Joe, we were all fans of Chlorination, and it couldn't do it. It couldn't break through, and that was a solid game.
My understanding is they're going back on Kickstarter though, from what I've heard. Well, yeah, because we did a review of that. It's a swimming game, right?
Yep.
Yeah, we did a review of that. We pushed the crap out of it, and I don't know if it's past. In fact, I could look, I suppose, but if it's past the funding stage and it didn't make it, you said.
Yeah, it did not make it.
Dang it! That was a good game.
Yep.
It was and I don't know about you. Have you ever heard of any other swimming themed games?
No, and not just. I mean, yeah, it's such a good theme,
but it does seem like it's a way to skip the local game store, which now having a little bit of a skin in that game.
Yeah,
that even makes me less happy.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that here in just a minute. Let's get through these last few questions, and then we'll talk about your game store. A lunch half hour, a 30-minute or less game. Tom, what are you playing?
I'm probably playing Get to the Restaurant and Back to My Car. Honestly, I don't think there's anything I would be able to play in a half an hour that would satisfy me in game wise.
What?
So, yeah, I know. I'm a kind of a crunchy thinker game guy. I do like some of these filler games. You know what? 5 4 3 2 1, is that the name of that game? The card game where it's the chickens. Oh gosh, I
Yeah.
can't think of the name, but that'd be actually is a really good game. You can play a number of times in about 15 minutes. But I can't think of the name of it now. Joe will know, and he'll give me grief about it on Friday when I see him. That I couldn't
He'll
remember.
give you grief about it tomorrow when I tell him.
True, yeah, that's a good point. Forgot, you'll rat me out.
I'll rat you out. Don't worry.
No, I can't remember what the name of the game is, but all I remember is it's kind of a trick-taking game where you want to have, I think, the least of something, and it's got chickens or roosters on it that change things. And we played that one a lot. The other one, I guess, that's pretty good is Quirkle. You can get Quirkle in a half an hour.
Yeah, you can do Quirkle in half an hour.
And I like Quirkle.
I like a good roll and write for a good 30-minute game.
Yeah, we played a lot of Tom Cleborad, and I got kind of tired of that. But
you gotta download the other boards, man.
Yeah, well, we played it actually in person. So, but I don't mind Welcome to. I don't like a lot of the expansions to Welcome to, and Welcome to Las Vegas was extremely disappointing to me. But the regular Welcome to I like quite a bit. That's a good one.
I still have yet to play that. Every time Joe and I set up a time to play it, one of us backs out.
Welcome to or Welcome to Las Vegas?
Welcome to. I've never played any of them.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah, and I love rolling rights and the flipping right and all that. And I'm like, and Joe's got it. And he's like, oh yeah, and I printed off a score sheet off of Board Game Geek. I laminated it, and Joe and I were going to play. That he couldn't. Then we were going to play that I couldn't. No, I've still not played it. It's been too long.
At the store rolling, there'll be some time where we can maybe just say, hey, we're at the store, we'll get this running, and we can still help customers and stuff. Oh, and then the other one that dawned on me, the other one I kind of like is Flux. I have a ton of Flux games. Those can take. I think the longest I've ever played that game was at Geek Way to the West. We played it for 2 hours, the same game. Nobody can one game went 2 hours because we had, I think, 8 people playing or something like that. So the rules kept changing, the goals kept changing, the cards kept getting shuffled up, and it was like we could never get everybody to get it together. But
That's too many people.
Oh yeah, way too many people. But it was late and it was fun. It was okay. But Flux is a kind of a really good go-to quick game, and I like that one quite a bit.
So, a hidden gem or a guilty pleasure game?
You're gonna tell Joe.
Joe's going to listen to this.
I know. Monopoly. Honestly,
I love Monopoly.
You know what? I do too, and it's one of those games that gets a lot of disparagement amongst the elite gaming community, but it's a fun game. If you play it the right way,
play with the right rules.
You play it with people who are just want to have some fun. You don't have to think too hard about it. It's a lot of fun. That's my guilty pleasure, and I always defend Monopoly when I see people running it down.
I love Monopoly. It's what really got me into gaming. It's what got me into games with strategy, even though you can argue there isn't strategy. But it's really what got me into the game as a hobby, and really the gaming as that can take time, Because as a kid, you played like Yahtzee, and it was, quick, and then Chutes and Ladders and Candyland. They're all these fast. Even Clue can be a pretty fast game. But like Monopoly, when you sit down, you're in it. You're in it for the long haul. And I love it. Actually, what just showed up in my house today was Anti-Monopoly by Ralph Anspach. I have one of the it was an unopened copy from like the 70s, and I nicked it off eBay. So I'm excited to sit down and play Anti-Monopoly.
That sounds interesting. I've not heard of that. I'll have to look it up.
Yeah, it's a long story.
I saw that question, and my first thought was I could have said Clue, because Clue is in there too. I
love Clue.
I like a lot of the old games. I mean, Risk. Risk, if you don't want to think too hard and just want to conquer the world from Australia, that's a good game.
It's everybody. Conquer the world from Australia.
Well, the first thing you learn when you play the game is somebody... you think, I'm going to take the United States, I'll take Russia, and then someone just says, oh, I guess I'll take Australia. Don't worry about me down here in Australia. And then they just sweep up and Oh, now I know. So then the next time you play it, you do the Australia thing, and you don't win usually when you do that because you don't do it right. But yeah, it's
You'll figure it out eventually.
you do. And actually, I would bet almost anybody who's ever won that game, the first time they ever won it was via Australia. They started in Australia and went up and took over the world. So because Africa's hard because you've got two ways into Africa, especially down in the bottom southern part. The United States is tough, but Australia has that one way in and one way out. And if you can defend Australia and then move through, you're in good shape.
Absolutely.
So, those are my guilty pleasures.
There's nothing wrong with the old Parker Brothers Milton Bradley classics.
There are not. You're right.
There's nothing wrong with those.
Never been a big fan of Stratego, but it's okay.
Oh, I like Stratego too. That one. So Stratego, my son plays it like chess, and so one of his big strategies is if he finds like your 1 or your 2, he'll hunt it down with his 1 or 2, and then like he's like, well, if you don't have your 2 and I don't have my 2, then nobody has a 2. And it's like, but I want my 2. And he's like, well, but now neither one of us have one. I'm like,
yeah.
It's like playing him in chess. He'll take out my queen with his queen. He's like, well, now nobody has a queen.
Right. Now you have to
like
a rook or a bishop or something.
Like, good grief.
Sorry about that. It's ripping time, evidently.
Apparently.
Yeah. I don't know where this is my 3-legged cat who moves faster than the other cats that I have. And he just
hang on, you have 3 cats and one has 3 legs.
Yes. I got suckered into that cat. You never heard that story?
I don't think I have, Tom.
I have friends who live in a rural area on a kind of an acreage, and they have a ton of cats. I get a message one day, hey, we have a kitten here. She's only, and at the time it was she, only has 3 legs. We're afraid she won't make it through the winter. So I said, okay. And I have a thing for 3-legged cats. I dang near adopted one a bunch of years ago, but it had feline leukemia, and I couldn't bring it into my other cats. Well, anyway, so I said, okay, fine. So I went out to go see this kitten. And when I got there, she was on an island. She was sitting on an island in the kitchen. And she leaped off the island and ran through the kitchen. And then she came back and leaped back up onto the island. Still didn't think anything about that. She was cute. And, of course, I had brought my carrier, so I pretty much knew at that point I was going to get her. And I took her into the vet after I got her and had her checked out. She had ear mites because she's a farm cat.
Yeah.
She had worms because she's a farm cat.
Yeah.
And I got all that fixed. I took her in again to have another exam, and they checked her out, and she'd gained. And she's tiny. I mean, when I got her, she was literally maybe the size of my palm. And she was supposedly 8 weeks old when I got her. She was 2 months. But it was like, wow, she's really tiny. I can't imagine. But no, she was born in May, and I got her in September. So whatever. That's like 4 months, actually. So I took her into the vet, and then they said, yeah, she's gained a little bit of weight, and the worms are gone, the ear mites are gone. She seems fine. When do you want to have her fixed? I said, well, probably in a couple of weeks I'll look at that. Well, she's sitting on my lap, cleaning herself, and all of a sudden I noticed something pop up.
Oh, my.
And my first thought was, that doesn't seem right for a girl cat. So I looked it up on the internet to see how when you do this, you have to be very careful on how to sex a kitten.
Yeah.
Be very careful on the internet when you're in Google. Well, anyway, it turns out that it is very difficult until a certain point in their lives to tell the sex of a kitten. And I've had cats literally all my life, and they've turned out to be whatever sex I was told they were. Well, she was not a she. She was a he, which was good because it's a lot less expensive to get them fixed. But it's like, well, crap. I had her name. His name was at the time was Skipper Louise because Skipper Lou, Skip to my Lou. Well, then I just thought, okay, he's still going to be Skipper, but just going to be Skipper Lou, like in Lewis. And so it's worked out. But the funny thing is the vet still calls her a female or him a female, even though they fixed him. I'm fixed. And the same vet will send me an email saying it's time for your Skipper Louise, or whatever it is, for her exam. It's not a her. You fixed her. But in defense again of the vet, it does say even for professionals, it's difficult to tell until certain things develop, and then they can tell. And they hadn't developed until that very moment, I guess, when I noticed it. and I was able to get him fixed. But yeah, so he's the one that's ripping around. But he's only got he was born without his left paw, I think. Yes, no, his right paw. He's born without his right paw. It's about maybe from the elbow down, it's gone, and he's fine. He doesn't he doesn't know he doesn't have it. But what I figured out was they suckered me, because it dawned on me about a week later that this cat was jumping off of about a 4-foot counter back onto a 4-foot counter, and he was born on a farm. He's a farm cat. He would have been fine. I think he would have survived fine. He would have probably been the toughest cat in the bunch, but I ended up taking him, and now he's a wimpy little house cat.
Oh,
but he loves both my other cats, even though the one hates him. So, but he'll come up and jump up. He's made my life interesting. My ex I told her I was thinking about getting a kitten, and she said, "Well, if he lives to be 20 years, you're going to be 79 years old." Or 78 years old. And I went, "Just shut up."
Thank you.
Why are you going to take care of him when you're that old? I said, "Well, yeah, I won't have a choice. That's how that works with a pet. I've had them literally since I was born. I've had a cat in my life." But,
all right, so back to the podcast here. Back to board gaming. If a game has colors, is there a certain color that you prefer or have to be?
I don't have to be any color. I used to always say I didn't have a preference for color. And for some reason, when that happens, you get stuck with a color. And I seem to always get stuck with yellow.
Yellow? It's a good color.
I know. And so my default is usually I will go with pink if it's available, just because I'm defiant like that in regard to stereotypes and stuff. I don't care what color I am. I really don't, but I will generally, if an option is available, pick yellow or pink. Those are my two go-tos. We played a game called Domination yesterday. Yeah, yesterday. It's today's Monday. Yeah, yesterday we played a game called Domination, which is a card-driven or tile-laying tech tree civ type game. And the colors were gray, black, white, and maroon or red. And I just, without thinking, reached out and took the gray. So that was my color there. But if they'd had yellow, I think I would have probably taken the yellow.
Yeah.
I mean, yellow has kind of become my default.
It's your default.
Well, I play with people who will always take blue or purple first.
Yeah,
it'd be fine.
Yeah, Edward, my son, always takes purple. That's why purple's in the game Fences.
I bet. Yeah, that makes sense.
Because he wanted,
Yep.
It's my game. I can put whatever colors there I want.
Exactly. So, if you want pink, you could have.
Yeah, so we put purple in there because that's his favorite color, and red because it's my favorite color, and then the other two colors because they looked good with purple and red.
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
So we already talked about Kickstarter, how you're kind of off of it. But I want to talk about your game shop. You and Joe and the other guy whose name it just now escapes me.
Jason.
Yes.
Jason Kadinger.
Yep. You guys are opening a game shop there in Sioux Falls, South Dakota.
In Sioux Falls area, yep. It's a community called Harrisburg, and it's kind of on the outskirts of Harrisburg in a kind of industrial area, but it's going to be a very large space with a retail side and a play side, play area, which will include our library, which basically is Joe's old game room. I think it's over 1,500 games that he has available to play. Yeah, but basically he outgrew his game room, and this is still. I think that became the impetus for him to get serious about opening the game shop. So.
No, honey, this is for a game shop I'm going to open in 10 years. Yeah. Trust me.
Well, his wife Jess is just extremely supportive of him and has been a big, huge help in getting this thing running. So I have not had as much time as I would like to get in there and work on getting the shop into shape for opening. But Jason and Joe both have done a really exceptional job of getting it ready. And I think we'll be ready to open maybe even a week or so before. We might have a soft opening before the grand opening. But I honestly don't know in regard to that yet.
No, that's exciting. I wish I could be up there, but obviously, I started a new job, so I got to wait on some vacation time to accrue and
Sure.
that sort of thing. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, I'll definitely make it up there at some point.
I hope so. Yeah, we look forward to have you sign some copies of the games and play it with people and get them all excited about fences. That's
Yeah,
actually one of the more fun tiling because I think I mentioned Carcassonne was one of the kind of gateway games for me. And when I first saw fences, my thought was, oh, it's sort of Carcassonne-ish. Then I realized there's some major differences, but it's got similar mechanics and is a lot of fun. And the theme, of course, fits really well in the Midwest. So
oh yeah,
kind of
yeah.
neat.
Killer art. I love the art we
Art
had.
is great. Can't get past Joe being Farmer Joe in there, but
This cowboy hat with the
oh yeah.
sunglasses.
And I told him when we promote fences, anytime we promote fences, you're gonna have to wear that hat and the sunglasses.
I said he should offer to sign every copy that people buy.
Oh, that would have been awesome. Yeah. So
Sign his card right then and
yeah.
there.
Well, and I know we did that for you, and we talked
Yep,
about this. Of course, I've forgotten completely about it because that's how my mind works. That
that
he
happens.
signed for you at Geekway, if I remember
Yeah,
correctly.
yep,
Yep.
down there at Geekway, down
Which
here in
is
good old
where
St.
I
Louis.
actually met you and completely forgot about that. But I think, in my defense, that was also the same year that Tom Vassell was there. So, because he was there
Probably.
promoting Western Legends, I think, or something like that. Was that the game?
I
The
don't
Sandbox
remember, but
Western. Yeah.
yeah,
So, I
he's
mean,
been
granted,
there.
it was a thrill to meet you as well, but this was Tom Vassell. I mean, come on. He was like 6'8" or something like that. Good God, he's a tall man, which I didn't realize because he's only this tall on the computer screen. So
Yeah, yeah, he looks so small on the
yeah,
computer screen.
it makes me wonder what Z Garcia and uh, Sam Healy look like when they're in real life. So
You never know you're going to meet down there.
yeah, you don't. And I met Jamie Stegmeyer there the first year I ever went, but I was asked to try and find him because one of our friends was one of the. It's not I wouldn't say an envoy because I don't think he has envoys, but she somehow got involved with Euphoria when it was coming out. She got in contact with him and offered to take pictures of the game for publicity, and so she got to know him pretty well. And I actually won a copy of the game in a raffle, so I won a free game for $50 was what I spent on the raffle tickets. And it's like a $40 game, so I spent 10 more than I needed to. But I got the Kickstarter edition, which was great. And it is actually, I think I've mentioned, or Euphoria. Yeah, I've mentioned Euphoria as my favorite probably game at this point, although Wingspan is sort of starting to edge it out a little bit. Um, so I got to meet him, so that was kind of fun. And then I met Tom Vassell. I met you. Those are my celebrity meets from Geekly.
I'm glad to know I'm on the same level as Tom Vassell and Jamie
Yeah,
Stegmeyer.
probably a little above Jamie for sure.
Yeah,
Probably
obviously.
because Jamie's got some issues. Jamie's got some issues with retail stores as well. So, but I won't get into that right now.
I'm
But it
excited for you
happens.
guys to get the game store open. I can't wait to. I don't know if I'll ever just accidentally find myself in South Dakota. It'd be kind of a far way to go to accidentally get lost, but I will make a point to
About
get
eight
up
hours
there.
straight up I-90 if I remember.
Yeah, it's yeah. I looked it
Yeah.
up. It's like 8 or 9 hours, and it just kind of just goes straight up.
Yep. All I know is when I've gone down to Geekway, I've stopped in Kansas City. One year I stopped in Kansas City and watched a Royals game, and the other years that I went, I just went straight down. Yeah,
Yep.
it'll be interesting. I look forward to it. I've made some good friends down there. There's a
Yeah,
few people that
I've made a lot. I've made Joe and you.
Yep.
It's amazing. Like I always say at the end of my podcast, board games build bridges, but they really do. And
Oh yeah.
when Chlorination went off, and I was talking with him, and he was like, "Do you know any artists I would be looking for work?" And I'm like, "I do." And so I
Yeah.
contacted an artist and said, "Hey, you might be getting an email from this guy about this game." And then I contacted the designer and said, "Hey, this guy said, you should get a hold of him." So You know, you
Now,
can play matchmaker that way, and
exactly. Are the chlorination people? Are they from the St. Louis area as well, or are they from
no,
somewhere
they're
else?
from Sweden.
Oh gosh, well, yeah, that's a heck of a bridge then. That's a bridge
That's a
across
big,
the fjords.
yeah.
So,
It's a really big bridge.
yeah, it's a very very long bridge to Sweden.
I wouldn't advise driving across it. I
I would not. I would not. It would frighten me. So yeah, the day they
wouldn't
have a
be
car that
probably wouldn't be the safest bridge to drive across either.
no, no, because I'm not sure if that Mariana Trench will allow you to put foundations down in time. So yeah, that'd be
I'm gonna go with
scary.
probably not.
I think
It'd
an airplane would be better. So, but
probably be
yeah,
safer, probably be faster.
yeah, it'd be safer for sure. I'm not sure about faster for sure too because I can't even imagine. People forget how big the world is. I mean,
Oh
just
yeah.
driving across the United States is like a 6 day trip. I know
Well, I mean, when the pandemic started, they were doing all the Cannonball Run. Remember that?
I
There
don't.
was no, yeah, at the very beginning when nobody was out in the roads because everybody was, at home.
Oh yeah.
These people were running the Cannonball Run, and they set like world records because there was nobody out there, and they're averaging like a 98 or 105 miles an hour across the U.S.
Oh my God, that'd be ridiculous. Traveling is interesting. I still enjoy it, and I look forward to going down to. I was trying to figure out for Geekway if I would be able to see a baseball game, and I believe the season actually ends the Sunday
Probably the
before Geekway. It ends
yeah,
October 1st, I think,
yeah, I
or
think
something
so.
like that. The last home
Well,
game is
we'll make the playoffs. We'll make the playoffs. The Cardinals
yeah.
will
I
be in the playoffs. Don't you
can't
worry.
afford playoff baseball, and with my luck, it'd be in whatever city it's the other team is in. So
They won't have home field.
yeah, the only time I've ever seen the field there was at Busch Stadium. Is that in St. Louis?
Yep.
Is from the top of the arch, where if
I
you
can't go
wanted
wrong with
to,
that either.
nope. Well, if you wanted to, you could sit up on the top of the arch with a pair of binoculars and watch a game. I know that.
Feel like watching very, very small people play
Yeah,
with a very, 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 very tiny ball.
it'd be a cheaper ticket than going to the stadium though. Get up on the arch.
So yeah, it depends how you play the game, but yeah.
But yeah, no, it was. I like going down there. That's one of those cities I didn't know if I'd like it or not, and it turns out it's pretty good city.
I've been here for a while. We got a couple good breweries. We got a couple good gaming shops. We got a board game cafe now.
Oh,
It's all
nice.
kinds
Yeah,
all kinds of fun
we
stuff.
went to Miniature Market. Joe and I went to Miniature Market when we were there for the Geekway. We both went to, and
Yeah,
that was
that's a
interesting.
dangerous place.
Yep. We'd both been to Fantasy Flight games in Minneapolis, and this reminded me a lot of Fantasy Flight. I don't think do they have the cafe though. They don't have a cafe there at Miniature Market, but that's one thing that Fantasy Flight has. I still remember the first time I walked into Fantasy Flight, and I'd known Joe for a couple of years, and I walk in and I'm just like awestruck. My jaw literally dropped, and I start looking around. And I see things, and I start just snapping pictures and sending them to Joe. You got to come here. You got to come here sometime. And so, like the next, like 6 months later, I think, or even less than that, it may have been like 3 months later. He and I and another guy went up to Minneapolis to go to Fantasy Flight. And it was like that was an awesome trip. So, and I really
No,
liked Miniature Market. It reminded me because they have the same big game room outside off their which is I think what kind of inspired us with Average Joe is we've got the big game room, huge game room. I mean, lots of space to play games with the library, and then the retail space is right next to it. It's essentially through what's going to be it is a big archway, like a castle
with
door.
all the custom tiles that Jason's been making.
Yeah, which are really cool. He's done a really good job with those.
It's awesome.
And so then you go into, and there'll be play space in the retail space too. We'll have Oculus Rifts. Is that what that's called? The Oculus, the 3D thing, which is freaky realistic. And we have some video game area and a little bit of a lounge area where you can sit and watch TV or whatever, or talk about board games with friends and just rest a little bit. And the snacks will be available. It's going to be a lot of fun.
I can't wait to get
Yep.
up there.
We're about 2.5 weeks out. I think the opening day is the the Saturday of Memorial Day weekend. So
Nice.
yeah,
Nice.
looking forward to it.
So if people want to get in contact with you, Tom, the best way is probably to catch you on Fridays on the Average Joe podcast.
Podcast, we do it live on Facebook, and I believe it's uploaded to YouTube in about a day or two after that. You can find us on Average Joe's Gaming. We did reach 100 subscribers, so we have our own custom URL, but if you type in Average Joe's Gaming, you're going to see our podcast along with Joe's wife Jess and her book stuff. She does a great job with those as well. So it's a lot of fun doing that. This is one thing, we started doing this podcast about 2.5 or 3 years ago, and it's been 3 years. Yep. And I think we did it on and off for about a year, and then kind of got serious about it 2 years ago. And have tried to do it every week. We missed a couple weeks ago just because the store is was at a place where we needed to get some stuff done that instead. And
but now you're shooting it live at the store.
Yep. Now we shoot it live at the store. We're trying to figure out what we want to do in regard to that, as far as maybe setting up some kind of booth that we can do it from, or if we're going to start doing it maybe after store closing and putting it out just as a podcast and YouTube broadcast, or if we want to do it live with people in the store. There's obviously
pluses and minuses.
Some drawbacks to doing it live. We have had to actually withdraw a show because of some comments that got made when we were doing it live, and they weren't family friendly. So we ended up withdrawing that episode. But
just for my listeners, I was not part of that one.
No, that was not one of your episodes. That was actually just anyway. It's a long story, but
long story short, it wasn't me, and that's all that matters.
Exactly. There we go. And that's it. And it wasn't me, and it wasn't Joe. It was just an outside comment that got heard.
Unfortunate. And
we needed to delete it, and we couldn't really delete just the comment, so we ended up having to delete the whole episode. And then of course there's the infamous episode that didn't record, which turns out was our best episode ever.
That's what always happens.
Nobody heard it. Yeah, I mean, we were on point with all kinds of interesting information, and had brilliant commentary and such. And
Tom, I've listened and watched and been part of many of your episodes. There's no way anything you're saying is remotely true.
Oh, no. It was the best podcast ever broadcast that didn't get broadcast. Of any podcast ever.
In the history of all podcasts.
Exactly. That's my story. I am sticking to that.
I don't let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Exactly. That's how that works.
Tom, I want to thank you for being on the show today. Wish you guys luck with your shop opening up here soon, and we'll definitely be plugging it again on my Facebook page, which is facebook.com/eatlunchandboardgame. And as always, you can reach out to me via email at eatlunchandboardgame@gmail.com. And remember, board games build bridges.
Average Joe's Gaming is a weekly podcast brought to you by us. I'm Joe.
I'm Tom. We talk about all things game-related. In this hour-long podcast, you'll discover what has arrived in the game room,
which Funko Pop Tom just could not resist, and maybe, if you're lucky, we might get around to talking about games.
Might.
Tune in weekly. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast formats.
When you're gaming, why not be comfy? Go over to supportplayer.org. Click on the cards, pieces, and dice to get some merch. These t-shirts are some of the most comfortable I have ever worn. That's supportplayer.org, and there's a link on eatlunchandboardgame.com.